The meeting room on Space Station Harmony 7 was bigger than most human ships. Doctor sat at the long metal table and looked around at her alien companions. The room felt cold and sterile, like everything the other species built. She missed the warm lighting humans preferred. High Scholar stood at the front of the room. The tall had blue skin that shimmered under the lights. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he spoke. Behind him, a hologram showed pieces of old metal and fabric. "We have made a wonderful discovery," said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "On the edge of the system, we found a derelict vessel. The ship appears to be human in origin." Nodded politely. She had read the report before coming to this meeting. The Galactic Heritage Foundation had called it urgent business. They wanted to discuss something important about human history. "The vessel is very old," continued the scholar. "Our dating methods show it comes from your pre-contact period, before your species joined the galactic community." Around the table, other aliens nodded their agreement. The representative glowed softly with approval. Her jellyfish-like body pulsed with gentle blue light. The delegate sat perfectly still. The crystal being looked like a walking gemstone, beautiful and sharp. "Inside this ancient ship we discovered artifacts," said. He waved one of his hands and the hologram changed. Now it showed pieces of armor. The metal looked dented and burned. Fabric strips hung from broken sections. "This appears to be some form of protective gear. Battle armor, perhaps. We believe it represents an important part of your species' martial history." Leaned forward to get a better look at the images. The armor pieces floating in the hologram looked familiar, very familiar. She recognized the chest plate design and the helmet shape. She could even see the small manufacturer markings on the shoulder pieces. "The craftsmanship is remarkable for such primitive technology," said her musical voice filled the room. "Your ancestors showed great skill in metalworking and polymer weaving." "Indeed," agreed his words sounded like crystal bells ringing. "The engineering shows sophistication beyond what we expected from pre-contact humans." Tried to hide her growing confusion. She studied the armor pieces more carefully. The design was exactly like the gear in her ship's armory. The same model number was visible on the power coupling. The same scratches marked the helmet from where the communication array attached. "We have a proposal for your species," announced. "The Galactic Heritage Foundation would like to create an exhibit. We want to show the evolution of warfare across all species. This human armor would be a perfect addition." The other aliens murmured their agreement. They seemed excited about the idea. "However," continued, "the armor pieces we found are too damaged for proper display. We would like humanity to recreate this ancient armor. Think of it as honoring your warrior ancestors." Felt a strange sensation in her stomach. Something was not right about this situation. The aliens all looked at her expectantly. They waited for her to speak. "This would be a great honor for your young species," said to contribute to galactic culture and heritage. "Your people could learn about their own forgotten past," added archaeological recreation is a noble pursuit." Looked at the hologram again. She counted the armor pieces and noted their condition. The plasma burns on the chest plate formed a specific pattern. She had seen that exact pattern before, recently. "The museum exhibit will tour all major worlds," explained. "Billions of beings will learn about human military history. Your species will gain respect and recognition." The aliens continued talking about their plans. They discussed timeline and materials. They mentioned famous museums and cultural centers. Listened, but her mind was elsewhere. She thought about her last assignment. 3 months ago, she had been part of a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim. There had been trouble at station. Pirates had attacked civilian transports. The human peacekeeping force had responded quickly. Remembered the ion storm that caught them during the return trip. It had damaged several ships. The magnetic fields had played havoc with their navigation systems. Some vessels had been forced to drift until rescue arrived. Doctor's voice brought her back to the present. What do you think of our proposal? Looked around the table. All the aliens watched her with interest. The large eyes blinked slowly. The pulsed with anticipation. The oar's crystal form reflected the room's lights. I need to clarify something, said carefully. You want us to recreate this armor for your museum exhibit? Exactly, confirmed. A perfect replica of your ancient warrior gear. Studied the hologram one more time. She noted every detail of the armor pieces. The serial numbers were clearly visible. The damage patterns told a story she knew well. The blood stains on the fabric looked fresh because they were fresh. Before I give you an answer, said slowly, I need to ask you a question. The aliens leaned forward with interest. They seemed pleased that the human wanted to participate in their cultural project. Took a deep breath. She looked directly at High Scholar. Her next words would change everything in this room. Do you want mine cleaned or bloodstained? The room fell completely silent. The alien stared at her with confusion. His 4 arms stopped moving. The glow dimmed. The oar's crystal form seemed to darken. I'm sorry, said slowly. Could you repeat that question? Smiled politely. She had their full attention now. The next few minutes would be very interesting indeed. The silence in the meeting room stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. High Scholar tilted his head to one side. His large eyes blinked several times. The other aliens looked just as confused. Doctor, said carefully, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. We are not asking for an original piece. We want you to create a new replica of this ancient armor. Nodded patiently. She understood their confusion perfectly. I know what you're asking for, but I'm not offering to make a replica. I'm asking whether you want my personal set cleaned up or left as it is. This bioluminescent body flickered rapidly. Her glow shifted from blue to yellow to red. Your personal set of what exactly? The same armor you just showed me, replied. She gestured toward the hologram. I have an identical set in my quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel. I wore it during my last assignment. The oar's crystal structure began to resonate. A low humming sound filled the room. You possess armor identical to these archaeological specimens. Looked around the table at their shocked faces. Not identical, exactly the same model. Mark 7 environmental combat suit manufactured by Terran Defense Systems. Standard issue for peacekeeping operations. 4 arms moved nervously. But these artifacts are from your pre-contact period. They are ancient by galactic standards. How ancient are we talking about? Asked. The scholar consulted his data pad. Our dating methods indicate the vessel is approximately 6 months old. Almost laughed out loud. She managed to keep her expression neutral. 6 months isn't ancient for humans. That's practically yesterday. Impossible, declared the location where we found the vessel suggests it has been drifting for much longer. Thought about the ion storm again. She remembered the chaos and confusion. Several ships had been scattered across the system. Rescue operations had taken weeks to complete. Where exactly did you find the ship? She asked. Consulted his notes. Grid reference 447 Delta, approximately 8 light hours from station. Pulled out her own data pad. She accessed the mission reports from 3 months ago. The information she found confirmed her suspicions. That's the location of the station incident, she said. We had a peacekeeping operation there. Pirates attacked civilian transports. During the return journey, an ion storm scattered our fleet. The aliens exchanged worried glances. This was not going according to their plans. Several ships were forced to drift until rescue arrived, continued. The magnetic fields interfered with our navigation systems. Some vessels couldn't restart their engines for days. You're suggesting this vessel is not ancient? Asked Theor. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you that this ship was part of a recent military operation. The armor you found belonged to someone who was probably rescued last week. The room fell silent again. Could see the aliens struggling to process this information. Their entire understanding of the situation was falling apart. Studied the holographic armor pieces with new eyes, but the damage patterns suggest extensive combat operations. The incident was intense, agreed. The pirates were well armed. We had to fight our way through their defenses to reach the civilians. The plasma burns indicate exposure to military-grade weapons, observed the. Nodded. Pirate gangs often use stolen military equipment. They're not playing around with toy guns. The oar's humming grew louder. Are you telling us that humans are currently engaged in armed conflicts? Of course we are, replied. Someone has to keep the peace. Pirates don't stop being pirates just because we joined the galactic community. Looked confused. But your species achieved interstellar travel. Surely you have evolved beyond such primitive behaviors. Stared at him for a long moment. She realized the aliens had some very strange ideas about human development. We use interstellar travel to reach places where we need to fight, she explained. Better technology just means we can protect more people across greater distances. But warfare is a sign of cultural immaturity, protested the. Advanced species resolve conflicts through diplomacy and negotiation. Try explaining that to pirates while they're shooting at civilian transports, replied dryly. The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. This conversation was not going where they expected. So this armor, said slowly, pointing at the hologram, is not a historical artifact. It's current standard equipment, confirmed. Every peacekeeping unit carries this gear. Most civilian ships have emergency suits for security purposes. How many humans possess such equipment? Asked the oar. Thought about it. Active military personnel, about 50 million, reserves and civilian defense forces, maybe 500 million, emergency training programs, pretty much everyone over the age of 16. The numbers hit the aliens like a physical blow. This glow dimmed to almost nothing. Arms trembled slightly. The oar stopped humming entirely. 500 million humans have access to military armor, whispered the. That's just the people trained to use it properly, clarified. Anyone can buy basic protective gear at civilian markets. She pulled up another file on her data pad. Would you like to see the specifications for our current top-of-the-line equipment? The Mark 7 is actually considered basic gear now. The aliens stared at her in horror. Their archaeological discovery had just become a contemporary military briefing. Smiled politely. So, about my original question, do you want to see my armor cleaned up or with the authentic battle damage? Stood up from the conference table. The alien delegates remained frozen in their seats, still processing what they had just learned. She gathered her data pad and looked around the room. I think it would be easier to show you rather than explain, she said. My ship is docked at Bay 12. Would you like to see the armor in person? High Scholar exchanged glances with the other aliens. The pulsed nervously. The oar's crystal form had taken on a darker shade. After a moment of silent communication, nodded slowly. That would be educational, he said carefully. The group made their way through the space station's corridors, walked at a comfortable pace while the aliens followed behind her. She could hear them whispering among themselves in their various languages. None of them sounded happy. The human diplomatic vessel, New Geneva, sat in the docking bay like a sleeping giant. Compared to the elegant alien ships nearby, it looked bulky and practical. Notice the aliens studying its armored hull and weapon emplacements. Interesting design choices, commented the oar. Very robust. Smiled. We build our ships to last. You never know what you might run into out there. They boarded the ship through the main airlock. led them down a corridor lined with emergency equipment lockers. The aliens noticed that each locker contained what looked like military gear. "Is this a warship?" asked the nervously. "Diplomatic vessel," replied. "But we don't believe in sending diplomats to dangerous places without proper protection." They reached the armory section, entered her access code, and the heavy doors slid open. The aliens stepped inside and immediately stopped moving. The room contained dozens of suits of armor. They hung on wall mounts like metal scarecrows. Each suit showed signs of use. Scorch marks, dents, and scratches covered the surfaces. Some suits had patches where repairs had been made. "Welcome to our equipment storage," said casually. "This is where we keep the gear when we're not using it." Approached one of the suits with trembling hands. "These are all identical to the archaeological specimens." "Well, same model family," corrected. "Some of these are Mark 6 suits, a few Mark 8s over there, but yes, basically the same design." She walked to her personal storage locker and began entering another access code. "The Mark 7 line has been in production for about 3 years now, very popular with field teams." The locker opened to reveal personal armor. The suit looked well used but carefully maintained. Dark stains marked several sections of the chest plate and helmet. The left arm showed recent repair work. "This is mine," said, lifting the chest piece from its mount. "I wore this during the operation. That's where those plasma burns came from." The aliens stared at the armor with fascination and horror. What their greatest scholars had studied as ancient artifacts, handled like everyday work clothes. "The blood stains are from Sergeant Martinez," continued conversationally. "He got hit by shrapnel while we were evacuating civilians. The suit's medical systems kept him alive until we could get him to a proper medical facility." They made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "You said blood stains, from recent combat." Nodded. "About 2 weeks ago. Different operation, same kind of work, pirates again. They seem to be getting bolder lately." She began assembling the armor pieces on a nearby workbench. The aliens watched in silence as she demonstrated the suit's various components. "The power system can run for 72 hours on a single charge," she explained. "Life support good for a week in vacuum. Integrated weapon systems include plasma rifle, projectile weapons, and emergency explosives." His voice cracked slightly. "Emergency explosives. Sometimes you need to make your own exits," said with a shrug. "Asteroid mining facilities have very thick walls." She activated the suit's diagnostic systems. Lights flickered across the armor's surface as various components came online. The aliens jumped back when the helmet's visor began glowing. "Targeting systems are integrated with the helmet display," continued her demonstration. "Thermal imaging, electromagnetic spectrum analysis, friend or foe identification, standard package for field operations." The oar's humming had become almost inaudible. "This technology level suggests your species has achieved military advancement far beyond what we assumed." Looked confused. "What did you assume?" "That humans were beginning to move past their violent phase," the scholar said quietly. "Like most species do when they achieve interstellar capabilities." Considered this for a moment. Why would we move past violence? The universe is a dangerous place. Someone has to be ready to fight the dangerous things. "But advanced species resolve conflicts through peaceful means," protested the. "Tell that to the pirates," replied, "or the slave traders, or the territorial expansion zealots, or any of the other groups that think violence is the best solution to their problems." She gestured around the armory. "We tried peaceful solutions first. We always try peaceful solutions first. But when someone starts shooting at innocent people, we shoot back. Hard." The aliens looked around the room with new understanding. These weren't museum pieces or historical curiosities. This was an active military armory belonging to a species that had never stopped fighting. How many ships like this does humanity operate? Asked. Thought about it. Diplomatic vessels, maybe 200, military ships. That's classified, but let's just say we can protect our interests. She began disassembling the armor and returning it to storage. The funny thing is, you guys act like warfare is something species grow out of. But every time we show up to help with a crisis, we're the only ones with the equipment and training to handle it. The aliens had no response to that. They watched secure her armor in its locker with practiced efficiency. So, said, closing the locker door, about that museum exhibit. Are you still interested in displaying human military equipment? Sealed her armor locker and turned back to the alien delegates. Their faces showed a mixture of fascination and growing dread. The scholar kept staring at the other suits hanging around the armory. This is just standard equipment, said, noticing their attention. Every human ship carries at least a dozen suits for emergencies. Most civilian vessels have basic protective gear too. The glow had dimmed to barely visible levels. How many humans know how to use this equipment? Considered the question. Military training is part of our basic education system. Everyone learns the fundamentals. Some people specialize, others just learn enough to not be helpless. She moved toward the armory exit. Would you like to meet my commanding officer? He can probably give you better information about our current capabilities. Before the aliens could answer, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A voice echoed through the corridors. Doctor, please report to the bridge. We have a situation developing in Sector 7. Activated a wall communicator. On my way, Captain. I have the Heritage Foundation delegates with me. Bring them along, the voice replied. They might find this educational. Gestured for the aliens to follow her. They made their way through the ship's corridors toward the bridge. The aliens noticed more details as they walked. Emergency weapon lockers every 50 meters. Blast doors that could seal sections of the ship. Crew members wearing basic armor as everyday clothing. Your people seem very prepared, observed the Or. Space is dangerous, replied. We learned that lesson early and never forgot it. They reached the bridge to find organized chaos. Crew members worked at their stations while holographic displays showed star charts and tactical information. At the center of it all stood Captain. The captain wore power armor that makes gear look like lightweight clothing. The massive suit stood nearly 3 meters tall and bristled with weapon systems. Servo motors whined softly as he moved. Ah, Doctor, the captain said without turning around. Perfect timing. We just received a distress call from a transport in the outer system. The alien delegate flickered with alarm. One of our ships. Captain finally turned to face the group. The alien stepped back involuntarily when they saw him in the full power armor. His helmet visor glowed with targeting displays and sensor readouts. Cargo vessel, Gentle Current, the captain confirmed. Pirates hit them about an hour ago. The crew managed to send a distress signal before their communications went down. Checked her data pad. What's our response status? 2 patrol ships are already en route, the captain replied. But they won't arrive for another 4 hours. The pirates could be long gone by then. He gestured at the tactical display. However, we have a squadron of peacekeeping Marines conducting training exercises in the next system. They could be there in 30 minutes. The aliens watched this conversation with growing amazement. The humans were casually discussing a military operation to rescue alien civilians. Are you planning to engage hostile forces? Asked High Scholar. Captain looked at him as if the question made no sense. Of course, pirates attacked a civilian vessel. Our job is to stop pirates from attacking civilian vessels. But the transport belongs to our species, not yours, protested the delegate. And the captain exchanged glances. The captain's expression, visible through his helmet's faceplate, showed confusion. So, asked, Pirates are pirates regardless of who they're attacking. The captain activated his communication systems. Marine Squadron 7, you are cleared for immediate deployment to Sector 7. Pirate engagement, civilian rescue operation. A crisp voice responded immediately. Copy that, Captain. Squadron 7 deploying in 2 minutes. Estimated arrival at target location in 28 minutes. The aliens listened to the military efficiency with something approaching terror. These humans were launching a combat operation with the same casual attitude most species used for scheduling meetings. Your Marines carry equipment similar to this, the Or asked, gesturing at the captain's power armor. Better actually, Captain replied. This is shipboard gear. Marine assault armor is specifically designed for hostile environment operations. He brought up another display showing technical specifications. The aliens stared at weapons systems and defensive capabilities that exceeded anything in their own military databases. Each Marine carries enough firepower to level a small city, the captain explained matter-of-factly, plus medical equipment, engineering tools, and emergency supplies, self-sufficient for extended operations. Watched the alien delegates processing this information. Their worldview was crumbling in real time. Captain said carefully, our guests are from the Galactic Heritage Foundation. They wanted humanity to recreate some ancient armor they found. She gestured toward the holographic displays, still showing the station armor fragments. Captain studied the images for a moment. Then he started laughing. The sound echoed strangely through his armor speakers. Ancient, he said between chuckles. That's from Lieutenant's unit. She reported equipment loss after the Iron Storm incident. We've been meaning to send a recovery team. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place for the aliens. Not only was the armor not ancient, but the humans had known exactly where it was the entire time. You knew the location of this archaeological site? Asked weakly. Of course, the captain replied. We track all our equipment. That drift pattern put the lost gear right where you found it. Smiled apologetically at the aliens. We were going to mention it eventually, but you seemed so excited about your discovery. A new voice crackled over the communication system. Captain, this is Marine 7 Alpha. We have visual contact with the target vessel. 12 hostile ships, civilian transport secure, preparing for engagement. Captain activated his tactical displays. Copy that, 7 Alpha. You are cleared to engage. Protect the civilians and secure the pirates for interrogation. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the humans coordinated a live military operation happening hundreds of light years away. What they considered an impossible feat of coordination, the humans handled like routine paperwork. Any final questions about human military capabilities? Asked politely. The aliens had no words left to speak. 3 weeks later, Doctor sat in her new office on the Galactic Heritage Foundation's main station. The room was larger than her old quarters, with windows that looked out at the busy space lanes. Ships from dozens of species moved through the traffic patterns, but she noticed that other vessels gave the human ships extra room now. Her door chimed softly. Come in, she called. High Scholar entered, moving more carefully than she remembered. The proud scholar looked tired. His forearms carried a thick data pad filled with reports and research notes. Doctor, he said formally, I have completed my preliminary study. Gestured to the chair across from her desk. Please sit down and call me. We're colleagues now. Settled into the chair with a sound like wind through leaves. He placed his data pad on the desk between them. I must confess, I have never written a report quite like this one, he said quietly. My findings challenge everything we thought we knew about human development. Nodded sympathetically. I imagine they do. What did you conclude? The scholar touched his data pad, and a holographic display appeared above the desk. It showed charts and graphs comparing different species' military capabilities over time. Most species follow a predictable pattern, explained. They develop warfare early in their history. As they become more advanced, they gradually abandon violent solutions in favor of diplomatic ones. Studied the charts. Each alien species showed the same curve. Early aggression that slowly declined as they achieved space travel and joined the galactic community. The human data does not follow this pattern, continued. He highlighted the human section of the chart. Your species appears to have perfected warfare rather than abandoning it. The human curve was completely different. Instead of declining, their military capabilities had continued to grow steadily. The line went straight up with no sign of leveling off. We made an error in our fundamental assumptions, the scholar admitted. We assumed that humans, like other species, would eventually evolve past the need for violence. Leaned back in her chair. That assumption seems reasonable. What changed your mind? Pulled up another display showing recent galactic incidents. Pirate attacks, territorial disputes, criminal organizations, and resource conflicts filled the screen. We realized that someone has been handling these problems for us, he said. Every major crisis in the past 5 years was resolved by human intervention. Looked at the data with interest. She had not seen it compiled like this before. The Rigel Station hostage crisis. Humans responded first and freed the captives, continued. The Antares mining rebellion. Human peacekeepers restored order. The vegan slave trading network. Human marines shut it down. He gestured at dozens of similar incidents. We thought these problems simply resolved themselves. We never questioned who was actually resolving them. Smiled sadly. Most species prefer not to think about unpleasant necessities. They're happy to let someone else handle the dirty work. That someone else has been humanity, confirmed. Your species has been serving as the galaxy's unofficial military force, while we remained ignorant of your activities. He pulled up one final chart. This one showed the decline in galactic violence over the past decade. The improvement was dramatic and steady. Crime rates down by 60%. Piracy incidents reduced by 75%. Territorial conflicts resolved before they could escalate into wars, he read from his notes. All of this happened because humans were willing to fight when fighting became necessary. Studied the numbers. She had known their work was effective, but seeing it was impressive. What will you recommend to the Heritage Foundation? She asked. Closed his eyes for a moment. That we stop trying to understand human warfare as a phase of development. It is not something your species will grow out of. It is something you have grown into. He stood up from his chair and gathered his data pad. I am recommending that the Foundation establish a new research division, military anthropology, focused specifically on understanding human combat culture. Raised an eyebrow. That sounds like a significant change in policy. The galaxy has been peaceful because humans have been fighting, replied. If we want that peace to continue, we need to understand how and why you fight. After the scholar left, returned to her own work. Her new position as military cultural exchange officer kept her busy. She was helping other species understand that human warfare was not primitive aggression, but sophisticated peacekeeping. Her communication system chimed with an incoming message. Captain appeared on her screen, still wearing his power armor. He said with a grin, "We just finished cleaning up that pirate situation near the colonies. Thought you'd like to know that 3 different species thanked us for our humanitarian assistance." Laughed. Do they understand what our humanitarian assistance actually involves? They're learning, the captain replied. Slowly, they asked if we could station a permanent peacekeeping force in their system. Made a note on her schedule. I'll add them to the cultural exchange program. They need to understand what they're asking for. After ending the call, walked to her office window. Outside, the peaceful traffic of galactic commerce moved through space in orderly patterns. Beings from hundreds of worlds conducted business, traveled, and lived their lives without fear. They could do this because somewhere else in the galaxy, human marines were chasing pirates through asteroid fields. Human peacekeepers were standing guard at trade stations. Human soldiers were making sure that the civilized beings could remain civilized. Pulled up her personal files and found the photographs from her last assignment. The station operation had saved over 10,000 alien civilians. Most of them would never know that humans had risked their lives for strangers. She opened a new document and began writing her weekly report. At the top of the page, she typed a title that would have confused the aliens just a month ago, but now made perfect sense. Current status of human peace operations. Galaxy secure, mission continuing. Outside her window, the stars shone peacefully in the darkness. Someone had to make sure they stayed that way.